Hi everyone, this is Vanessa Gertman from AlpusCast. Welcome back to the Fireplace series. Today, we're going to be adding activities to Fireplace. At some point in the future, we're going to be allowing multiple users to have access to a single project. If multiple people are working on the same project, it'd be really nice to have an audit trail of who did what and when. To accomplish that, we're going to have activities. We're going to log activities when a project is created or a task is created or updated. In today's video, we're going to be adding the activity entity. Also, we're going to log an activity when a project is created. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is make our entity. And we're going to use our Albus command for that. Then we're going to use the -m switch so we also get a migration out of it. Okay, great. Let's go to our entity and fill out what we're going to need in that entity model. We don't need a name. Let's get rid of that. So what do we need? Well, an activity is going to have a user that it belongs to. And then just like we've done before, the corresponding property in our ozone table is going to be user ID. Which belongs to a user's. Also, an activity should always belong to a project. Okay, now, like I mentioned earlier, we are going to have a type of activity that's for tasks, so creating a task or updating a task. So an activity might also belong to a task. But it's not always going to belong to a task. For instance, the activity we're adding today of creating a project is not tied to a task. So task needs to be nullable. All right, and then one last thing we need to add to our activity is a payload. The payload is going to be JSON. And we're going to use this to store the type of activity and also any other useful details about the activity that we don't know yet necessarily. And the type is going to be string, and then it's going to map to any. And this is going to be JSON. The column, we're going to call it action. Okay, that looks good. That should be everything we need. Let's run our migration. Let's take a look at our table and make sure that it migrated correctly. Okay, so I have an activities table now. If we look at the structure, you'll see we've got all the types that we wanted. So that looks good. Great. So now let's actually log an activity when a project gets created. We're going to do that in the project controller. So the store method is where we're actually creating the project. And you'll see we create the project here and then flash a message. I'd like to create the activity before we do the flash. So let's add that right here. We're going to call this new function, which is going to be called log create project activity. And I'm going to need to pass the project to it. And then also that payload we talked about. That's going to be a map, and I know that I want the first thing to be action. So what type of action was this activity? And it was created project. And then another thing that's going to be helpful to know is the title of the project that was created, so we can display that. Should actually be type any, we know. Okay, so I know I need a timestamp for my created at and updated at, so I'm going to make a variable for that. And then I also need to know who the user is because we're going to use the user ID in our activity. Okay, so that should be all the pieces we need to build the activity, so let's do that. Insert. So the payload we know. The project ID is going to be project.id. User ID is going to be user.id. Okay, that should be all we need to create an activity when we created a project. But like I showed you at the very beginning of this video, we want to actually also show the list of activities for a project. So we need to update our view code to do that now. It's going to be in project show. I'm going to paste that code in. And again, this view code is in the repo I've linked below, so you can get that view code as well. Let's just kind of talk through it really quickly though. Basically, we're going to be displaying each activity for the project.activities. If the project doesn't have any activities, then we're going to show this view of no activities yet. Another interesting thing you might notice in here is we've got this ago function. That's a template function that Alpus has, which displays an instance of a local date time as relevant to this time ago language. It's using a time ago library to be able to do that. Now, as I just mentioned, this is going to display the project activities. Well, right now, project doesn't have any activities, so let's update that class as well. And this is going to be just like how we did tasks. The project has many activities. All right, let's run this and see if it works. Okay, so let's start by looking at a project which I know doesn't have any activities because I created it before we logged anything. And you'll see now we've got that empty state view of no activities yet, so that's good. Let's create a new project. We're going to create. All right, now if we go and check this project out, you'll see there's an activity in there that says that this user created a project, and it includes the name of the project. When did it happen? Just now. All right, so that's actually going to do it for this lesson. In the next video, we're going to log activities for tasks, so created at and updated at. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.